Hello, welcome to this week's review of My Hero Academia Vigilantes. This week I'm reviewing the episode titled 0 Hour. We kick off this review, as we always do with these reviews, by talking about the positives and the headline positives. All the big things I enjoyed about this particular episode. I like the artwork that we see of all the mainline heroes in this episode. The pacing builds up in a great and steady way, and I think this episode ultimately achieves its function near perfectly. So last week's title was more of a word salad. This week we set something that's a little bit more simple, a little bit more generic, and it reminds me of a few things which I'll discuss later on in the review. Anyway, like I say in the opening headline positive bits, I really do I love the artwork throughout this episode, especially the shot that we get of the pro heroes in the early section of this particular episode, which just looks absolutely stellar. Pretty much every pro hero that we know from the mainline series is there. Pretty much any that have ever had a single line in the main series are there, even if their main line was just a catchphrase or just some weird guttural noise. They're all there! They're all there, showing off and looking really cool and awesome. And look, I will admit there's a part of me that feels it's kind of lame that it is just this almost exclusive band of main heroes from the main series and we don't have anything else here that is more unique. You know, this is a series that is set at an earlier point in the timeline. Not a massive point, I think it's like 5 or 6 years or something like that, but it would have been neat to get an idea as to who was popular during this era, who rose and who fall, were there any heroes in this particular moment in time who were unique to this time period and then they retired, or they died, or they got cancelled or something, and then they just faded off from memory or something like that. And I think that just adding extra unique heroes into this would have added some great flavour to events. There's only one hero in this entire montage that I don't recognise, which is the one that kind of looks like some kind of Gundam space shooty robot thing that you briefly see in the background of a few shots. No, I'm not talking about the guy that looks like a washing machine. There's another one in the background which is also robotic. But aside from them, there's literally no one else that's new or unique, which is a bit of a bummer, but I will just say is that they do look fantastic from what they are. They are brilliantly well put together and presented. The artwork is still fantastic. It displays power, skill, athleticism, dynamism, heroic flair. And even if we didn't know these people who they were from the main series, even if we didn't know their legacy, we didn't know that these were some of the biggest and brightest stars in Japan, just by how they are presented, how they are put forward here, you'd be able to tell that they're a big deal, because they are drawn with a level of detail and a level of focus that really makes them stand out. They look like just otherworldly entities to a certain degree, and it's not just that they look great within this sequence, it just gives us an idea that they are really these big name people, that they are these big deals within this world in this moment in time, which is just fantastic. Again, I would like to have seen just some few more unique heroes for this particular time period, because otherwise it now makes it feel like Japan's hero chart just really didn't change for the better part of a decade. Which, to be fair, would be kind of how the top 40 works in certain regards. Yeah, top 40 music, it always seems to be the same few names and the same few songs over and over again. But I suppose that makes sense given how the music industry works and just how much they tend to weigh the scales with all these kind of things. But we do see, like I say, some characters from the main series who, well, it isn't really clear as to exactly where they were with all this, because they are just lower down the pecking order. Like the Wild Pussycats are like a mid-table group. We also see the guy that has like the danger stripes on his head, and we have the guy that I think controls water and helps the cast later on in the series, and they as well aren't particularly big names. So either this is a time early on in their career, or maybe this is a moment in time where they were like in the top 20 or the top 10 or something, and then as time went by they kind of faded down a little bit, which would have been neat. It would have been neat if that gave us an indication of that, but again, I would have liked if there was just more unique characters in this sequence, but still, who we get here is still presented well. I think this is some of the best artwork we've seen in these particular characters, really, I think, ever, at least as far as the manga stuff is concerned, but bearing in mind I have not read the mainline manga, so be that as it may. The rest of the artwork, though, with it throughout this particular episode of the manga is still good. I think it's still fantastic. It is still of a high standard. Though what I still will say is that everything that we get at the Sky Egg location is still the best. Even just the little stuff of people going to their seats and going in line. That's all presented clear and well. And of course, you got the little bit of Captain Celebrity doing his heroics as he enters into the stadium, and he's doing all the little bits where he has to like save the little girls and stuff. Oh, that's cute and fun and well put together. It's great for what it is. And the moment that he's hype squad, both the one with Pop Step and the one with the fake X-Men characters, is presented well. I think the one with the fake X-Men characters is presented the best out of the two because of just how it's angled and positioned. It's almost like a Dutch angle thing where it's all at an angle, so it makes it look more dynamic, so they really are cheering and shouting on for Captain Celebrity and how he's reformed himself, so he's now the cool macho hero who doesn't waste his time chasing after the ladies, man, because he's the cool hero that we needed today, man, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's well put together, really great. I like that stuff. It's just nice contrast that we have this, and they go out of the way to, oh, this all-American hero, but now he's taken Japanese influences. And it really is, from what we know, is just that's just part of the rebranding thing, so people don't know he just shags around. Still, I like how it's all put together. It all adds to the scale of this event, making it feel like a major moment. Even if, you know, let's be honest, many of the main heroes that are here really probably aren't there for the sake of Captain Celebrity. They might not actually like him, but they are just there, let's be honest, for public appearances, given how hero work works in this world, given how it is this popularity contest at the end of the day. Them being there is for the sake of public appearances and to hopefully help them jump a couple levels up the pecking order so they can get a little bit more money. Okay, that isn't something that's explicitly said within this episode, but there is that air of cynicism there that has to be within all of this, because it is an aspect of this series. I'm glad, I will say, that the series is not embracing that cynicism, but it's still just there mechanically, which is something I'm fine with. We all know it's there, and it's not getting into it in a gratuitous way. It just, you know, it's just an aspect of this world that those who know. Beyond this, of course, we have the fact that the Monster Factory investigation is, well, it's now kind of coming to an end. Well, at least this part of it. This is a moment where elsewhere in the episode we have Razorhead and Fat Gum and the Crab Cop lady. They're going to make their big raid on this pharmaceutical company that they think is connected to the Monster Factory. It turns out it is, because that's the way that a story like this works, and it does feel odd that we're getting into this so quickly, but I suppose we could just say that it's been a couple of weeks or so since the investigation started in earnest. So now, here they are, making this big raid on this pharmaceutical company, and fighting animals! Look, we know, and as he's established and reiterated to us in this particular episode, that the Monster Factory does these weird science experiments that mutates people into animals and bestial versions of themselves, but it is always to mutate them to be like animals and to be a bestial version of themselves or some kind of mutated thing. They aren't literally turning people into animals one-to-one. So there's a part of me that can't help but feel and worry that Eraserhead and Fat Gum just decided to beat up some animals. I mean, there they were, just minding their own business, just chilling and vibing and doing what animals do, and the next thing you know, they're getting beaten up. Nelly the elephant packed a trunk and said hello to the ambulance. Oh yeah, I'm sure that when this ends up getting adapted in the anime, if indeed it gets that far, that this fight will be more of a fight, that they'll be doing this to save their lives, because these big, snarling animals will be coming at them to try and kill them. But in the here and now, what do we see? We see a rather confused and frightened looking elephant that just ends up getting beaten up and gets its trunk tied in a knot, and then we see this panda bear just minding its own business, eating some bamboo, getting beaten up. Kung Fu Panda? More like broken legs Panda. It's just such a strange series of events that, yes, there's a part of me that kind of expected that when they were doing this to be more of a fight here, maybe some disposable villain, but no, they're just beating up animals that just kind of look either confused or nonplussed by everything. And yes, I understand why they're doing this, because, you know, they can't take any risks, because one of these creatures might actually be an evil villain guy, but, it does feel like Peter or something, like whatever the name is, and will end up complaining to them. Hey, maybe this is the moment where Eraserhead will get to use his suit for a scandal. He'll have to do an apology tour where he says, I'm sorry for beating up that elephant. Hey, but hey, if he ever gets included like a death battle thing, they can say that it at least scales to elephant. Anyway, this all reveals that, yeah, like I say, this was a Monster Factory location after all. This isn't the big one, I don't think. I'm fairly certain that will be the case. And that this is just a pharma company that was just a part of all of that. And this wasn't just a pharma company, you know, doing some innocent, good old-fashioned experimentation on animals. No, because it turns out this is a Monster Factory location, and there's a whole flock of these flying, exploding monsters, and Eraserhead, he can't stare them all down to stop them using their exploding powers. Yeah, maybe you should take your goggles off, dickhead. I mean, you see, these goggles seem to really reduce your peripheral vision, and you got those weird slats in the goggles as well, which means you're never really going to get a clear view on all of them. So maybe you should just get some, like, clear plastic ones, almost like the ones you wear when you're a science lab or something like that. Look, I know why he's wearing them before people start to write in to complain. I know where those goggles really come from. I know why he's wearing them, but that still doesn't mean to say that he couldn't have an emergency pair that he wears when he realises, oh crap, I need to focus on more than just one person at once. Let me get my protective peepers out and go from there. But still, I like that whole series of events. I like the short little flash of action that we do get, even if it is still just our heroes beating up animals. I like the light banter as well that we end up getting with the Crab Cop Lady, Eraserhead and Fat Gum. It was fun for what it is. There wasn't much of it, and there wasn't maybe as much as I think there really needed to be, but given how jam-packed this episode was with just material that I don't think they needed much more, but still, they have a weird dynamic between the two of them, because, well, the three of them, I should say, because, you know, Crab Cop Lady and Fat Gum seem to have a good banter, good dynamic about them, and they're just Eraserhead wishing that he wasn't there at all. It's just what happens when you get extroverted people trying to buddy up with someone who's incredibly introverted, and the introverted person just not wanting to do much of anything. Which is fine. I like the dynamic they have there. I just wish they played to it a little bit more. And it's a bit of a shame that it looks like that's getting wrapped up a little bit. But of course, now this all sets up for the flying, exploding monsters to go off. They're flying to the Sky Egg to cause a rumpus. 0 Hour, reminding one of the movie from 1957 which inspired or was plagiarised by, depending on your point of view, the movie Aeroplane. And upon seeing all these flying, exploding monsters going to the Sky Egg, I imagine Eraserhead, Captain Celebrity, or some other hero saying,
I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
But sorry, when you have episodes that have titles that remind me of movies, I'm always going to make a reference to that particular movie, or the movie that then took inspiration or plagiarised it, depending on your point of view. But anyway, this whole episode, its whole point for existence is ultimately set up. I mean, let's grasp the thistle here. That's the whole point of this episode. So it is setting up for the stakes of what's coming next. And for the next episode or two after this, it's going to be this big epic confrontation where our heroes have to fight at the Sky Egg, defeating these big exploding monsters and saving the day or making a big dynamic sacrifice. Whatever may be will be, we'll see when it ends up coming through. But this episode in and of itself sets all that stuff up perfectly. While she is ultimately setting up and setting the stakes for what's coming next, it is to a certain degree a connecting tissue episode. And to be fair, we can all kind of guess what's coming next, and none of this was really a surprise, being that we literally had the delivery man, the scarred man, depending on what you want to call him, just a matter of weeks ago saying that literally this was what he was going to do. It still sets the stakes up well. It still presents itself in a way which is nonetheless fun to read for what it is, and is paced in such a way that it makes it a compelling read. And I know I say this a lot, but it is true. At no point in this episode does it end up feeling as though one thing is overriding another. It never feels like this stuff with the early section that we get in the Sky Egg is taking oxygen away from the raid on the big pharma thing and then the big potential invasion thing that comes thereafter. It was all presented in such a way that it ends up making this feel just exactly what it needs to be. I don't know how else to put it. It does everything that it needs to, but it does it with such a flair and a level of craft that it does make it a compelling read again, but for what it is. I know that I use the term for what it is a lot. I know that it's something of a crutch phrase, but In this circumstance, there's no way in putting it, we are dealing with an episode that does everything that it needs to. It does it a little bit better than that, it goes a little bit beyond, it doesn't go quite plus ultra, but at the very least we get an episode here that is still doing everything that a setup episode needs to do, but still having a bit of a flair and a dynamism and a entertainment value that does make it more than just a connecting tissue episode, because by God, we sure has had a hell of a lot of those in the previous volume. Well, that said, however, with a slight air of negativity in the air, let's get into the negatives. And how do I put this? Well, you remember a few volumes ago where Popstep had her first gig at the supermarket, and you remember how B tried to crash that with a big monster? Now we have another gig, this time with the delivery man, trying to crash it with another monster. You see what I'm getting at here? This all feels a tad repetitive to me. Again, whilst it is presented well, is entertaining for what it is, there are fun moments, some cute little moments of banter, some nice little action shots, there's our heroes beating up innocent animals. It is still, at the end of the day, just another bit where a villain is crashing a performance to do villainous things. It almost, to a certain degree, and this is something that's flashed in the back of my head, it feels like something out of a Saturday morning cartoon. Like our hero should be part of some kind of super cool superhero rock band, and here's our evil villain, Count Music Killer, who's wants to crash it because they don't like rock music, and now they're sending their villains to stop it, and then our heroes will save them with guitars and drums and whatever, that laser beams attached to them. Like, it kind of feels it's in that thing, because it's, yet again, our heroes are going to end up having to do a fight, or have a fight adjacent to it, which is connected to a performance thing. Which feels odd. As I've mentioned in the past, it's weird that so much of Vigilantes is centered around the career of Popstep and her attempts to be a pop star and an entertainer, more so than it is necessarily around Crawler and his attempts to be a vigilante. And ultimately, more of the runtime of this series has been dedicated to professional heroes and their investigations, or if there are other vigilantes, they are other vigilantes, it's not Crawler, which feels strange to me. I hope that he will ultimately be involved in all of this, trying to stop the villains, trying to save the day, save people. He's supposed to be at this gig. I mean, it's another performance thing, and his friends are performing, so he's going to be backstage just looking at things and going, oh boy, isn't that neat? And I hope that when everything kicks off, he's doing something with all of this, because I will be honest with you, yeah, this whole series is it's not even taking a weird turn, it's made this turn weeks ago, months ago at this point, volumes ago, but it really just feels, like I've said in the past, it's odd that My Hero Academia Vigilantes isn't so focused on vigilantes, but you could also make the criticism that My Hero Academia, the main series, wasn't really focused that much on the Academia either, so yeah, we got two series now that really aren't anything to do what they're named after. Anyway, with all that said and done, let's get into the overview and say that this is a fun episode. It does everything that it needs to. There's some great artwork on show here, some really fantastic stuff that I only wish was presented in a better format than just these rather naff paperbacks. Like, if this was, and I've mentioned this time and time again, but I'll say it again, if this was presented a nice hardback volume with the nice, crisp, really high quality paper on it, and you could have it as a proper double page spread on this little thing where you gotta hunch over and just screech over to try and read, oh, it'd look bloody fantastic. But in the here and now, it's good for what it is. Really is good for what it is. With all that said and done, however, let's get into Comment Corner. It's time for Comment Corner, reading comments from the review of the episode titled Investigation Starts, Steamy Vegetables, or whatever. Yeah, last week's episode, just going to review the comments from that particular one, or the one comment we did get from it, which was from Big X1, who says, this is a fun storyline, I think you'll enjoy the next one. Thanks for your comment, and I did. I enjoyed this episode quite a bit, or rather that episode you're referring to. I also enjoyed this episode, and from the one page thus far that I've read of the next episode, I've got a feeling I'm going to enjoy that, because I accidentally read the opening gag for the next episode, and that really did tickle me, so we'll see where we go with that. But, you know, let me know what you think about about this particular episode down below, what you think about where things are going in Vigilantes more generally. We're getting closer and closer each and every single week to the big series kickoff point. Let me know if you're excited, let me know about anything you're feeling about all that kind of stuff. But between then and now, I say thank you all for listening, thank you all for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye!
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Go on, it'll do me a power of good. Until next time, my friends, goodbye!